All right, now 3 o'clock. Championship Sunday is set at noon on CBS. The Patriots at the Broncos. New England currently a 4.5-point favorite. Jarrett Stidham will start in place of Bo Nix, who suffered a broken ankle against the Bills on Saturday. J.K. Dobbins, the Broncos' leading rusher, hasn't played since early November. He has gone back-to-back practices, expected to play Sunday. He is Denver's leading rusher. The Patriots 0-4 all-time in the postseason at Denver. At 3:30, Rams at the Seahawks on Fox. Seattle favored by 2.5. The two teams split their regular season meetings, with the home team winning both times. They are separated by 1 point and 1 yard in those two meetings. The Ravens have hired Jesse Minter as their next head coach. The Trailblazers back in action tonight. Miami Heat are in town. Tip-off at 7. Chris Burkhart's got Game Day Live at 5 from Moda. Portland currently 9th in the West at 22-22. They're 10-3 in their last 13 games. Rip City Drive with Chad Doings coming up next. Alex Brink joins me at 3:20. Yeah, the Broncos officially broke the Buffalo Bills. Their owner is a psycho. Their coach got fired, and they caused grown men to cry after that game, including their quarterback, Josh Allen, who I love, but my goodness, that was a disaster. And the Broncos now moving on to the AFC Championship game, minus Bo Nix. I will break down my entire saga on Saturday. I've been waiting 3 long days to be able to talk about this. You'll be happy to know that my health situation, I got the pooper taken care of. I got my face taken care of. So I'm back to what would you consider maybe 100%, maybe still on the injury report, but I'm probable now, so I'm ready to rock. And I can't wait until Sunday because I hate the Patriots. I hate their fat, pasty fans, and I can't wait until they get knocked out by a backup quarterback. I can't take the arrogance anymore. I can't take their loser attitude anymore. I can't take their smug arrogance anymore. I am quietly looking forward to Sunday at noon when that game kicks off in the Mile High City. I went back and I did a little research because I've been watching the Broncos now for 40 years. So I have a little bit of an idea of what's going on with the franchise and the way they've done it over the course of time. They are nearly unbeatable, 16-4 in home playoff games. But more importantly, the Patriots, their personal house of horrors over the years has been Denver. Mile High Stadium, Invesco, Empower Field, whatever you want to call it. But they don't play well at Mile High. In my 40 years as a fan, the Patriots, including postseason, are 6-13 all-time in games played in Denver. 0-4 in the postseason. And keep in mind, Tom Brady, he had a losing record in Denver, including 0-3 in the playoffs, with a loss in the divisional round to Jake Plummer in 2005, and then losses in the AFC title game in 13 and 15. I am looking forward to this game. I can't stand the Patriots, and I'm really pumped. Now I'm bummed out for Bo Nix. The broken ankle is devastating, and I got to be honest with you, I went through a wild 24-hour set of emotions on Saturday into Sunday. And like I told people then, give me a few days, and I'll work through the mental gymnastics of how Jarrett Stidham's going to lead the Broncos to victory, and I'll get there. But it was pretty wild on Saturday because I had the Blazer game. Lakers are in town, had to be down here at Moda Center, had to get things set up for Chris Burkhardt for game day. So I made the decision to watch the first half. I wanted to watch it with my dad, and then I was going to make the trek down to Moda Center. Now, of course, I got up early. I had a whole plan. I'm going to get a chiropractic adjustment from Doc Mitch because he lives close by. I swing over to his crib, and he adjusts me there. And I was going to drive over, hang with my dad, watch the first half, and go to Moda Center. Of course, I get a text from my daughter. Hey, Dad, I don't know if you're going to be busy after your chiropractic adjustment, but can I get a ride to Samina's house? Yeah, it's only one of the biggest games in history, but yeah, I've got nothing going on. So, of course, being a dad, it's classic dad life. You're ready to watch a big game, you're pumped, you're jacked up, and you get the text that your daughter needs a ride. So I drove her, and I was driving her there. The Bills went up 7-3, and then the Broncos punted, and the Bills were driving again for another touchdown. So before I got to be with my dad, I was already gripping because I thought the Broncos were going to lose the game. And then out of nowhere, Alex Singleton cracked Cook. He fumbled, and the Broncos promptly went down and scored. And how often do we see that in football where a team is starting to take control of the game, they fumble or throw a pick, and the other team is almost 100% guaranteed to go right down the field and score? And the Broncos went up 10-7. The Bills tied it with a field goal, and then the Bills put on their dumb cap right before halftime. The Broncos, and keep this in mind with Bo Nix, the guy who had no chance against Superman. I don't even know why Bo Nix is going to show up. Why would he want to show up and play the Bills? He can't beat Josh Allen. Well, the good news is he wasn't playing Josh Allen. He was playing the Buffalo defense. And at the end of the first half and the end of the second half, it was Bo Nix just showing that he is hung like a mule baby that went down and produced 2 touchdown drives. And that throw to little Jordan Humphrey on the touchdown before half was awesome. They rolled him out, and he put the ball right on the money, a dime. They twisted up the defensive back touchdown. And then for some reason, Sean McDermott, who isn't a very good coach and was fired, decided, you know what? We have no timeouts and just a couple of ticks on the clock. Let's go for it. Yeah, because that makes sense. He rolls out, starts to scramble, and Nick Benito caused a fumble. And the Broncos get it, 2 seconds on the clock. They kick a 50-yarder. They're up by 10 going into halftime. They come out in the second half, and they force a fumble. Nick Benito off the edge, crushed Allen. They get the ball back. But, of course, they couldn't score a touchdown, so they kicked the field goal up 13 at 23-10. I knew when they settled for the field goal in that spot that was going to be a problem. And it certainly was, because the Bills went down and scored. They make it a 6-point game. And then Bo turns it over. Thankfully, Josh threw another pick, one of his 4 turnovers on the day. Yeah, they're the better team, but they coughed it up 5 times. Nonsense. And then, of course, the Bills, they took the lead. They went down and got a late field goal, and I was gripping. I mean, really gripping. I got here. I got everything set up, so I had total clearance before the pregame show against the Lakers and the rest of the second half with the Broncos where I could watch. So I snuck up to the 300 level, and I was sitting up in the stands during a closed bowl, and I was all by myself. But the problem is the game got so intense and so wild that I couldn't just sit still anymore because I was about to have an anxiety attack. So I started pacing the concourse on the 300 level, watching the game on my phone, gripping, praying, everything. I was willing to do whatever it took to make sure the Broncos got the win. And when they got the ball back with 4 minutes, I thought, what a perfect scenario for Bo Nix. No one thinks he can get it done. No one believes in Bo Nix. I had phone calls from idiot Seahawks fans. They're like, hey, Chad, what's going on? What that means is that's code for I want to talk about how great the Hawks are and how I don't believe in Bo Nix. And that was the big reason. I just don't believe in Bo Nix. Yeah, based on what? He's got like 25 wins over the first 2 years of his career. But, yeah, keep talking Bo Nix down. He leads him down the field and dropped a 30-yard dime right into the hands of Marvin Mims. They took the lead. The problem is I looked at the clock, 55 seconds. I knew right away, well, that's a problem. Josh Allen went down, got them in position to kick a long field goal of 50 yards. Matt Prater, former Bronco, I knew he was going to make it. He did. And to overtime we go. The Broncos lost the toss. They had to start with the football. That's a problem because they had to punt. It was a great punt down inside the 5. And when the Bills got the ball, I thought the game was over. I'm like, they're not going to be able to stop them. They're going to run Cook. They're going to have some type of freaky play from Josh Allen. The game's going to be over. And somehow, some way, Jaquan McMillan came up with what is instantly a top 5 moment in the history of the Broncos, got the pick on Brandon Cooks. And let me make this very simple for you. I was surprised that that play created as much outrage as it did. He did not finish the catch. And McMillan simply stripped the ball away. And so he got the pick, and then from there the Broncos were able to get in field goal range. Now, I will say the first pass interference on Sutton, I didn't think that should be a flag. But there was a late hit on Bo Nix because Bosa's a clown and cracked him, so they only benefited 2 extra yards based on the pass interference compared to the late hit on Bo. Now, the second and final pass interference to set the Broncos up inside the 10, that's going to get thrown 100% of the time. If you try to tackle a receiver and you don't turn your dome around to try and locate the ball before it gets there, they have no choice but to throw the flag. I hate the games end on flags like that, but they're going to throw it. And they did, and the Broncos get the field goal and win. So I yelled so loud when I was sitting at 113 that people thought I was crazy, so I started to pace again. For the next, 45 to 60 minutes, I was on cloud 9. There was nothing that anybody could do to make me unhappy, to upset my mood. I was so happy for Bo. He outdueled Josh Allen, Superman. And no one thought he could do that, and he did. He had the best quarterback day of any quarterback in the divisional round. And so for 45 to 60 minutes, I was on cloud 9, like I had just snorted a bunch of cocaine or done some type of drugs or whatever. And I'm not a drug guy, but it felt like a drug because it was such an awesome win. And then all of a sudden my phone started loading up with text messages. And they're like, yeah, did you see the news? I'm like, yeah, watch the game. The Broncos won. It was awesome. And then I kept getting texts like that. And so I was like, what are they talking about? And I went to ESPN and I saw the headline. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Bo Nix broke his ankle? He finished the game. What do you mean he broke his ankle? Sean Payton came out shortly after the game, was like, it's steady time. Bo Nix broke his ankle. He's scheduled for surgery on Tuesday. I'm like, what? And so the way Sean broke it down is that when the Broncos set up for the final field goal, the players came off, the offensive guys came off, and Bo Nix was greeted by Sean. He went over and was like, yeah, F yeah. And Bo's like, careful, man, I'm not feeling right. And he's like, what do you got? And he's like, an ankle. He's like, oh, you're going to be fine. Just sit back and enjoy this field goal. And Peyton went and did his post-game presser, and he said normally sometime after every game, his training staff will meet with him in his office to go over the injuries and what they're looking at for the next week. But this time, they showed up at the office much sooner, and they showed him the x-ray, and that's when he knew Bo was done, and he went right back to the media room to announce it then. I thought Sean Payton handled that situation perfectly as a head coach. And so the next 24 hours, I felt like someone had just kicked me directly right in the balls. And then you start to take a step back and realize that, okay, you're playing at home. You're a great defensive team that rushes the quarterback better than anybody. And you're taking on a young quarterback who's never played a road playoff game. And Sean Payton clearly believes in Jarrett Stidham, and he's done a heck of a job with backup quarterbacks over the years. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's not going to be easy, and I would feel much better if Bo were playing, but this is not an impossible mission to get the Broncos into the Super Bowl. And we'll worry about the team they're going to face up with, probably Seattle, later on, but I do think there's a great opportunity. All right, coming up next, Alex Spring, former Coug, now with E4 Sports. He's going to join us, and we'll get his take on Bo, on the Broncos matchup with the Patriots, how you get Jarrett Stidham ready, what he thinks about the Hawks, what Sam Darnold must do this Sunday to get his team in the Super Bowl. And we'll get his take on that awesome title game. All right, 503-248-0620. The Rip City Radio text line is 88528. Live here at Moda Center, getting ready for the Blazers and Heat coming up at 7 here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, about 10 to 15 minutes away from Alex Brink. The Blazers are back in action tonight after 3 days off. The Heat are in town. Tip-off will be at 7, and the man who's going to be on the call is a great one. I'm talking about Kevin Calabro, who joins the Rip City Drive once again. And, Kevin, you're no stranger to this, but I had a Seahawk fan friend reach out to me. He's like, I'm going to the game. What should I expect? And I'm like, that place is going to be so lit. Can you imagine how loud, or can you help prepare my friend for what he's going to experience on Sunday?
It's like being beneath the belly of a jet aircraft. I mean, a lot of vibration, a lot of insanity. Don't plan on ever sitting down, for one thing. And it's going to be rocking. It'll be a lot of fun. They've achieved greatness this year. It's been wonderful to watch and to witness some of that. I've not been out there myself live to see it, but certainly have enjoyed every Sunday afternoon, and our family is very excited about it. Certainly.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'll tell you what. Speaking of superstar players, I was trying to think about the Blazers and what they've been able to accomplish, and I don't think they're getting the credit they deserve for being 500 when you've got 5 rotational guys who have been out for most of the year, and you've had 2 two-way players who are playing significant minutes. And then it all occurred to me, Kevin, Denny Avdia is developing into a superstar player, and he's done so many great things. I just can't speak highly enough about him. I've been so impressed with the growth since he arrived in Portland. What's your takeaway on what you're seeing from Denny and the way that he just continues to develop as they add more stuff to his plate?
Yeah, Chad, I don't think that's hyperbole. I think he's an all-star. Certainly, I think he's all-NBA. So when you talk about, one of the top 15 players in the league, you're talking about a superstar player, unless somebody drove off the side of the road. Oh, Chad called him a superstar. Well, look, if he's one of the top 15 elite in all of professional basketball, that puts him up there. He's only one of 3 guys with Jokic and Luka Doncic, who are, I think you call them superstars, wouldn't you? Averaging 25, 7 rebounds, 6 assists or more. That's pretty fabulous. 7th on All-Star voting. And, was 10th among players in the voting. So player knows player. And, of course, the coaches pick the rest of the team coming up on February the 1st, and we'll know then, whether or not he's made the All-Star team. I can't imagine that he won't, particularly with that international component. I was looking at that, the first 2 teams of the West and the East. You've got Jokic, you've got Doncic, SGA, Wemby, and Giannis. 5 internationals currently would be on that team. I suspect that's the way they're going to do that. They'll break that down that way. And with the commissioner holding a vote in case that they don't have it balanced at 16 USA players and 8 international players. So the way I read it, he's in, and he has meant everything to this team, as you mentioned, because of all the injuries, change of coach, game 2 of this NBA season. Somewhat unknown coach, someone that, he had met previously, but, they'd only been working with since camp. And then at times in the summer as well. It's just been remarkable with the way this has come together, and the common denominators in Denny Avdia. And I would say Tamani Kamara as well. He's played in every game the Blazers have played this year. Denny is up there among the top 10 in minutes played for the season. Donovan Klingen's development has been marvelous. He's played in 40 games, and Shaedon Sharp has had a solid, averaging 22 a game, over 40 games. That's just been solid stuff. And then, obviously had the contributions of Holiday, Jeremy Grant, the emergence of Caleb Love into a guy that you can just about count on, to come off that bench and get you. He's averaging 11, but in this win streak, close to 17 a game and shooting the threes remarkably well. And then the improved health of Rob Williams. So it's been really interesting. I've been doing this a long time, and it's fun to watch just the evolution of this team over 44 games, and then just think about how much more change, positive change there will be, in the next 40 or so games.
We're talking to Kevin Calabro. I really appreciate your assessment there. I want to ask you about Jeremy Grant. I've been blown away from day one of his play this year, and of course, it's a different role where he started the year coming off the bench. He's had a chance to start a ton because of the injuries, but I just, the way he's changed his game, no mid-range. He's either shooting the 3 or attacking in the paint, and he's remained remarkably aggressive throughout the year. I just can't believe that they've been able to get him to change his game and get all that buy-in from him. I just love the professional approach and the way he's going about his business this year and playing his best season as a Trailblazer. What are you seeing from Grant?
Well, particularly at the age of 31 and 12 years in the league, and not shy at all at taking it to the rim, Chad. It's been remarkable. I mean,
it's fearless.
He obviously didn't play in the last game against Sacramento, but previous to that, in a couple of games, I was just looking at his numbers. He had 60 against Atlanta. He went to the line 9 times. He was 7 of 9 from the line. The game previous to that, he had 22 against the Lakers, and he was 7-9 from the foul line. And he averaged just 22 minutes in those 2 games. So that just, to me, is a kind of a microcosm of what we're seeing from JG, who's also been shooting the 3 well. 6 attempts a game, 39% from 3. And he gives you steady defense as well. And he really gets after it on the defensive end, and he's a versatile player. It's been something to watch. In my years here since 16, the Blazers have just never had, with all due respect to the guys that have played that position, they've never had the wealth, the depth that they've had at wings. We've been praying for several years that the Blazers have some depth at wing, and finally they've got some really solid players there.
The other guy that's jumped out at me, and I've talked to Michael Holton a lot about him because he's really appreciated his body positioning and understanding of the game. But, man, the leap from year 1 to year 2 with Donovan Clingan, the production on the offensive glass in particular, showing better hands around the rim. And, Kevin, a lot of players in the league say they want to win, but when Donovan Clingan says he's willing to do whatever it takes to help the team win, he means it. And I just really am blown away by the production he's put up. I think 21 points, 17 boards in the win on Sunday. He's been dynamite this year.
Yeah, and I just love that quote. Joe had it in his piece in the Oregonian, Joe Freeman, reporting after practice yesterday. Donovan saying something to the effect that I just love to win. Once you've been to the mountaintop, you've had a taste of the championship, and you've been there a couple of times, what that's all about. And you know how good that feels, and you want that again and again and again. And he's added just another layer of conditioning too, Chad, to what he's been able to achieve. It's obvious that in the off season he has spent a lot of time in the conditioning. His stamina has improved. Certainly his strength has improved. Still has that enormous reach outside his frame at 7'3", just a massive body, obviously. And then, he's coming off 13 defensive rebounds, a career high, 21 and 17 against Sacramento. It's not an anomaly at all. And he's made his free throws. He was 8 of 8 in that game against Sacramento. And he's up to 27 minutes a night, and he's played in 40 games. So he's proved to be durable as well, playing minutes, running the floor, rim to rim. He's the backbone of your defense. He's your quarterback back there. And, he's just such a nice young man. He's got high basketball intellect, and he gets along with his teammates so well and communicates so well and has great respect from his teammates. And that's what you want from somebody that's, anchoring your defense and has a presence at the rim, that people just don't want to tangle with. And I love the old school mentality, man. He's got a chip on his shoulder, solid screen setter, and puts people on their backsides. I still think there's room for that in the league.
We're talking to Kevin Calabro, voice of the Trailblazers here on the Rip City Drive. All right, Caleb Love. I think Tom Haberstroh told me he's led all rookies in scoring since Christmas. How does a player like that go undrafted? Because he's been ultra productive and clearly proving he belongs in this league. I've been pleasantly surprised with the way he's balled out.
Well, I think it's because he couldn't they wouldn't pigeonhole him. They couldn't pigeonhole him as he a point guard or is he 2? All he did was score 1,000 points or more at North Carolina and at Arizona, and led North Carolina to a championship runner-up. They had a big lead in the first half against Kansas, let it get away in the second half. And so he's proven to be a guy that's a part of a winning component. There's no question. He's won the individual honors as well. I think he'll be forever known as the last Pac-12 Player of the Year there at Arizona. The year before they disbanded like the Pac-12 did, and they moved on to what are they in the Big 12 now. I had to ask Lamar the other night on the air where Arizona was. I had no clue. I mean, I can't keep track of where these teams are fragmenting and where they're going. Anyway, Caleb was that guy. But, and it took him a while to get going. And he finally he wasn't playing a lot. He was playing sporadically. He wasn't shooting it well. And, they had obviously a number of injuries, and he's a two-way guy. And The anticipation was he wasn't going to be playing much at all. He was going to be playing, over at the Child Center, and here he is playing more than they anticipated. And then I was looking at my chart. It's game 16 that he hits the 6 threes against Golden State, a win at Golden State, and that seemed to really ignite him. And he's had some big threes. He had 4 threes at Cleveland in a win. He had 4 threes against Boston here at home in a win. He had 6 threes against Dallas here in a win. He had 6 on the road at New Orleans in a win, and went 4 of 8 against the Los Angeles Lakers. He's shooting 3.75 from 3 over the last 10 games. So his threes have been impactful. They've not been, in mop-up time where everybody's getting their own. That's the other thing about him is it comes in the flow, and he's gotten obviously the okay from his coach Tiago Splitter, and Splitter has given him that latitude to go out there and hunt those threes when he's out there around the three-point arc. Spot up three-point shooter. He's good on the move, good above the break. He's just a real solid player, and fits in and is very thankful to be with the Blazers. He hasn't let this run of success get to him at all. He's still getting it all within the parameters of the offense they're trying to run.
Hey, Kevin, I appreciate you so much. What's great is I remember having a conversation with you a couple of years ago, and I asked you when some of these other big market opportunities were coming open, I said, would you consider going to a bigger market? What are your thoughts on that? And you said, hey, I've been around long enough. I look around and I look at my team here with Portland. I look at the people I get to work with in Lamar and Brooke, and you said, you know what, I realize that it doesn't get any better than that. And I just love that wisdom that you shared, that through all the things you've done, and you've been around this business a long time, that at this stage in your career you have the wisdom to be able to look at what you've got here with the people you get to work with, and you love it, man. And you guys sound great together. You, Brooke, and Lamar are money. I love that.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that, Chad, and I really do mean that. I just love doing NBA basketball. The quality of life in the Northwest has always been great to my family and to myself, and it's home for us. So let's see where this leads. It's pretty exciting to look at the standings. You hate to see misfortune befall any NBA team, but
yes.
The Golden State Warriors, Blazers have the tiebreaker on them. The Blazers are just 2.5 back. I think it's important to catch them to get a home court advantage should they play the Warriors in one of those play-in games, and that's going to be so exciting for the fans here. But I wouldn't let it leave there. That number 6 spot it's within reach.
Yes.
Let's keep that in mind as well. It is doable.
It's so great. Kevin Calabro will be on the call tonight. Heater in town. Tip-off's coming up at 7. Hey, Kevin, as always, man, I appreciate the time, and I appreciate your kindness, and keep killing it, my friend. Enjoy the game tonight.
Chad, you're a pro, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
There you go, KC, Kevin Calabro. Big fan of him. Kevin Calabro is one of the good guys in the business. And, look, he's big time. I mean, he's done network stuff. But you know what's cool about Kevin? Anytime you call him, anytime you approach him, he's always going to make time for you. And he'll give you honest input and feedback. He's just absolutely one of the best. And the team that they've been able to form, you can feel and that chemistry and when you're listening to them, on television between Brooke and Kevin and Lamar. And KC's been one of the best. And I'll tell you what's great about Kevin. A guy's good when he comes in from Seattle and nobody here in town wants him, and then he wins everyone over because he's so darn good at his job. That's called big time right there. That's called Hall of Fame voice, Kevin Calabro. And he is. He's a Hall of Fame broadcaster. Just simply one of the best. And I appreciate his vocabulary. He's got so many different ways with all the words that he's got stuffed away in his dome to be able to describe action. So good. And tonight's game will be an aesthetically pleasing game based on the pacing and the way Miami plays and the way they spread the floor and the way Portland's been playing. I just can't wait to see Denny after that 30.8 rebound, 8 assist performance, back on the floor with 3 days of rest. All right, very happy to go to the phones as I try to jack up the show with crazy scheduling. But Alex Brink, former Coug with E4 Sports, is joining us now. And Alex, as you might imagine, I'm very excited about Sunday. We have so many great things to talk about. But I want your take on Bo Nix. Before we get to the injury, he outdueled Josh Allen and made big plays, 2 touchdown drives at the end of the first half and the end of the second half. Overall, what do you think about Bo's performance in a big spot against Buffalo and Josh Allen?
Yeah, just really impressed by, Bo Nix. And, probably shouldn't be a surprise, honestly, right? Based on, the body of work in the end, both in his transition from the collegiate ranks to, to his rookie season and then everything he's done in leading the Broncos this year. I don't think we should be surprised that he outdueled Josh Allen, but at the same time, that was one of the question marks. And even I had it going into the game was, were we going to get the version of Bo Nix that could win that football game, both with his legs and then throwing from the pocket? And I think we did just that. And, again, I think you got to give a lot of credit, and it's not that he's not getting the credit, but, to have a Hall of Fame coach like Sean Payton to kind of lead the way, especially, from an offensive perspective and all that he's been through, I think is really helping Bo Nix as a young quarterback.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I was so happy for Bo. And then I got word. I was on Cloud 9 for like 45 to 60 minutes on Saturday night walking around Moda Center, Alex. And then I got word that Bo was done. I was like, wait, what? He finished the game? What do you mean he's done? And now he's going to miss the AFC Championship game. So you've been there. You understand this process. What do you think was going through his mind when Jarrett Stidham got the word that he was going to have to jump in and start the AFC title game?
Well, for Jarrett Stidham, I mean, very specifically, I mean, that's a guy that's, certainly paid his dues, right? Came in the league in 2019, was in New England and, has had a few productive moments in the league. And I think when he came to Denver, in his mind, he felt like he could position himself to, whenever his opportunity got called, to have success, right? That's kind of why you take a backup job with somebody like Sean Payton. And, I think Jarrett Stidham's as prepared as probably just about any backup in the league, arguably. So, if you're a Broncos fan, I think you feel really good that he's the guy that has a chance to pull the trigger. Obviously it's going to be a challenge, like there's no doubt about it, but I'm excited. These are the things, that for oftentimes in the NFL, you don't get to see. You don't get to see this, right, where a guy has a chance in a big moment to make a big impact as a backup quarterback, and it's fun when they do, right, the Nick Foles of the world and things like that. So fired up for Jarrett Stidham.
Well, did you have a chance to work with him at Elite 11, or do you know people that have worked with him?
I never saw him at Elite 11. A bunch of our coaches know him really well, and again, we kind of have, like everybody else, we got these group chats, and when it kind of got announced that Bo was hurt, everybody kind of jumped in the chat and was like, dude, this is it. This is the moment that this dude's been waiting for. He really earned it in his time in college, going Baylor to Auburn, and then, getting in the NFL and kind of going through the COVID season. And, so I think by and large, for what it's worth, the group of coaches that I'm with who work with the best in the country, both collegiately and professionally, feel like Stidham's really ready for this.
What's going to be his biggest challenge getting ready for this game, or when the game starts? What's the biggest challenge that's facing Jarrett Stidham for Sunday?
Well, it's those first few snaps, like things happen so fast. Even when you're a pro and you're a guy that you're a guy that you feel like you're prepared and all those sort of things. I think a good kind of recent analogy, although at a different level, is what Dante Moore experienced, right, in against Indiana, where you have all this preparation, you feel so good about everything, and then that first snap, it's hard to kind of calm the nerves and clear the mechanism, and you can make mistakes early in a game that maybe you normally wouldn't do once you kind of settle into it. Right, the Dante Moore thing, he throws an out route into outside leverage. Like, he would never throw that ball 100 out of 100 times if he saw that again, not in that moment. And so, as for Stidham, who hasn't, again, it's a big moment to be starting and all the things. He's got to really, and play calling can help, but he's got to really stay focused on the basics and the fundamentals, so you don't make the big mistake that you normally wouldn't make just because of that moment.
Wow. I can't imagine. So, the weird part about Sean Payton, you and I have talked about this, he has clearly shown throughout the course of the entire season that he doesn't really have an interest in running the football, or he doesn't trust his guys. We know J.K. Dobbins, it looks like he's going to play this weekend, their leading rusher, but I mean, I just really think that Sean Payton, even with Jarrett Stidham, I just get the sense that he's going to come out and attack in the passing game like he's done with Bo throughout the entire season. It's hard to change from one game to the next when he hasn't run the football all year. How do you see it?
Well, I think you can. Stidham's a little bit like Bo. He's got enough wiggle where you can use quarterback run and get him out on the edge. Sean Payton loves to use kind of the screen game and the quick passing game as an extension of the run game, right? And then lean into a play action pass. And and kind of boots and getting out of the pocket. So I think the game plan fits Stidham's his skill set really well. And to your point, this is not like, I got a rookie quarterback, we got to run the football 45 times, right? This is, we got a veteran backup. We got a veteran backup who's played some ball, been around some great coaches, great offensive minds. He knows what he's doing. This is not, kind of a slimmed down playbook. To your point, I think it's the full boat and let it ride and see where it lands.
How long will it take him to adjust to the speed of playoff football? Because I would imagine that's a big jump, right?
Yeah, it'll probably take him, 2 to 3 series to really get a feel for it. And he needs to get, out on the edge, take a hit, like feel, get popped in the pocket once or twice, hit a big throw, and then he'll be ready to go.
How would you attack Drake May, who's been sensational this year?
Well, again, if anybody can get to him, that Broncos defense and pass rush is probably one of the few in the league. So, I think the thing again with May is, like so many of these younger generation quarterbacks, they're dual threat, for lack of a better term, right? They have the ability to break the pocket and make plays with their legs, throw on the run, playoff schedule. So even if you get to him, he's a big, strong athlete, and he can make things happen that you just don't expect. And that's what's been so hard for the league with the Mahomes and the Lamar Jacksons and Josh Allens and now the Drake Mays and Bo Nix, like all of those guys, Jaden Daniels, they're hard to defend, right, in that regard. And so you got to get the first guy to get to him's got to get him down or get him slowed up because if you let him break the pocket, he's going to create a ton of problems.
All right, Seahawks are going to host the Rams. I love this matchup. I love that these two teams, I'm sure you've seen the stat, played 2 games this year. They're separated by 1 yard and 1 point, which is absolutely amazing. So Sam Darnold is dealing with an oblique. Have you ever dealt with an oblique injury during your time playing quarterback?
I have not, but I can imagine the challenge because being a quarterback, you're a rotational athlete, very much so. Even more so in the NFL where, oftentimes kind of your lower half, your legs, you got a lot of stuff happening with the linemen around you and you're making a lot of throws with kind of upper body rotation, which is basically your obliques, right? And your core and your low back. And so, I think it speaks to his toughness that he battled through it and, probably had a few painkillers in him. But, the thing is with muscle injuries like that, like strains and holes and even to some degree some type of tears, like you can manage the pain. So as long as you can operate, then the pain's usually not a huge issue. So I think that's what you saw last week where you kind of battled through it, through a mix of toughness and drugs, and then was still able to play well. Not to mention the defense is so dang good that he's pretty much always in a good position offensively. He doesn't have to do too much as a quarterback.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's a good point. So what's the key matchup you're going to be watching in this game coming up on Sunday with the Rams and Seahawks?
Well, it's that Seahawks defensive line, which has been just so good really all season against Matthew Stafford, who, I think like anybody else, but particularly Stafford, has at times in his career when he's a guy that gets pressure around him because he's not a guy that's going to move a lot. When he gets pressure in and around the pocket, he tends to get a little bit inaccurate, right? So if that Seahawks defensive line can get pressure, can handle the running game so that the Rams can't, utilize their play action pass and boot game, it's gonna be a long day for Matthew Stafford. But again, that's a tall task because with Sean McVay, it's like playing Kyle Shanahan, except for this roster is actually full and relatively healthy versus the Niners that was just decimated by injury. So they're going to have a great offensive game plan. They're going to try and limit those opportunities for the defensive line. But that's what I'm looking for is how effective is that Seahawks defensive line in relation to what they've been in the past however many games.
All right, who do you like in that game, Rams or Seahawks?
I like Seahawks. I can't unsee what I've seen all year, which is just dominant on the defensive side of the football. Offense is trending in the right direction, and I think always had it in them to be solid. Just had a few hiccups along the way. And I think with the Rams, again, they're a really good football team. They've been good all year. but they've shown enough warts that I think the Seahawks are playing the most complete football in the league.
All right, Broncos and Patriots. How do you see it going down?
It's probably not just because Bo Nix is out, but it definitely factors in. I think the Patriots win this football game. I probably would have picked them anyway with Bo Nix, even Bo Nix being healthy. There's something with what Mike Vrabel's done in that locker room and to that organization, the shot in the arm he's given them. Obviously, Drake May's playing great, and offensively, they've kind of figured it out with some young football players. I mean, that's a young offense that's executing with a sprinkling of veterans, right? But then defensively, they're so hard nosed, and as obviously, to see the point about the Seahawks, right? Like defense is gonna win championships, and if you got the best quarterback on the field, then that's probably the difference.
Alex, one thing you and I haven't talked a lot about because you got so many things going on with E-Force Sports, but talk to me about E-Force Baseball off-season training, which includes hitting, pitching, fielding lessons, camps. You've got everything going on. What you got?
Yeah, we got it all, right? It's oftentimes people think about us as kind of the football development organization, or where you can go work on your strength and speed. But in the past few years, we've really dove headfirst into baseball and softball development. Have some incredible instructors and coaches, guys and gals that played in college, and some of them professionally, and are very high level in what they do. So at both of our facilities here in the Portland metro area, over in Beaverton, and then here in Milwaukee, we've got a great setup, like you said, for baseball, softball lessons, pitching, fielding, hitting, pages at both locations. We got the whole setup, technology, Rapsodo, hit tracks, so you can track all your data. And then oftentimes we have off-day school camps, summer camps, different group classes. So check out eforcesports.com. You can click on the baseball, softball tab, see our entire offering if you got somebody in your life that is trying to get better as a baseball or softball player.
And if you got any questions, you can always email team@eforcesports.com. So one last thing. So you like the Patriots to win, but it wouldn't shock you if Jarrett Stidham got this done, would it?
You're asking that for your own personal feelings, aren't you, Chad? No, I would not.
Yes.
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised because of, again, the makeup of Jarrett Stidham, but also, again, he's a veteran backup. This is not like you're throwing in a rookie or second-year guy back there. Like, he's seen ball. He's been waiting for his opportunity. Guys like that. Again, kind of the a la Nick Foles, Philadelphia Eagles, like guys like that are excited to be there, right, and make it happen. And so, no, it would not surprise me, but I'm not betting on it.
Yeah. No, the thing where I stop at is when people tell me that there's not much of a drop-off from, Bo to Stidham. I'm like, come on. Let's I appreciate the optimism, but let's not get crazy here, right? I mean, geez.
All right.
All right. Well, dude, you're the man. I love you so much. Enjoy the games, and we'll talk next week, Alex.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care.
You got it. There's Alex Brink. So you're saying there's a chance. All right. We just basically nuked the clock, but that's okay because we got to talk to Kevin Calabro and Alex Brink all in one swoop. All right. We'll keep things rolling. Sean Hyken will join us coming up at 4:20. Brendan Slaughter is with me. We're here at Moda Center right now getting ready for the Heat and Trailblazers from Moda Center. Tip-off's coming up at 7 here on Rip City Radio 620. All right, Rip City Drive. Big thanks to Kevin Calabro and Alex Brink. Sean Hyken is going to join us coming up at 4:20. Tip-off is at 7 with the Miami Heat, and Chris Burkhardt's got game day coming up at 5 here in your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, Championship Sunday is set at noon on CBS. The Patriots are at the Broncos. New England currently a 4.5-point favorite. Jared Stidham will start in place of Bo Nix, who suffered a broken ankle Saturday against the Bills. J.K. Dobbins, the Broncos' leading rusher, hasn't played since early November. He has back-to-back practices under his belt, expected to play. He is Denver's leading rusher on the season. The Patriots are 0-4 all-time in postseason games played at Denver. The Broncos are 8-2 all-time in AFC title games. At 3:30, Rams are at the Seahawks on Fox. Seattle favored by 2.5. The two teams split their regular season meetings, with the home team winning both times. They are separated by 1 point and 1 yard in those two meetings. Elsewhere, the Ravens have hired Jesse Minter as their next head coach. The Blazers are back in action tonight. The Miami Heat are in town. Tip-off at 7. Chris Burkhardt has game day live from Moda starting at 5. Portland currently 9th in the West, 500 on the year, 10-3 in their last 13 games. Sean Highkin will join me at 4:20. All right, I'm about to go crazy again. I have pretty much listened to, read, I have gone over anything and everything that you can possibly consume for the AFC Championship game coming up this weekend, and I'm fascinated by this opportunity for Sean Payton, who's one of the more arrogant head coaches I've ever seen in my life, having the chance to put in a backup quarterback in the AFC title game against the Patriots, knowing that if he pulls this off and gets his team into the Super Bowl, that it further adds to his legend. And you know that kind of stuff matters to Sean Payton. I thought he handled the news of Bo's injury masterfully after the game. He went straight back to the media room, announced what was going on, that Stiddy was the guy, so that the players on the team who had already left the stadium would know, hearing from his voice, that Stidham was going to be the starter and that Bo Nix was out. Here's another question I have, too. I've noticed this with sports. You know, Bo had a surgery on Tuesday. And, of course, the reports coming out is that everything went well with the surgery. Have you ever in your life ever read a story about an athlete who had a surgery and the report that came back is that it went awful, that the surgeon had a bad day, that he messed up, that somehow, some way the surgery went bad? No, they're not going to say that. So, of course, you're only going to say one thing after the surgery is performed. It went well. Couldn't have gone better. Just once, just like these coaches that lie. When they get up to the podium, they're like, hey, man, I've looked at the film, and I got to be honest with you, that team sucks. Like Lou Holtz talking about Navy, like somehow they're, like Miami, back in the heyday, back in the mid-'80s. It's like, no, you guys are going to kill Navy, and why don't you just tell us that? But no, they got to lie and pretend like it's a tough opponent or whatever. I just think that's nonsense. Just come out and be honest. Dude, I've looked at the tape. If we don't win by 4 touchdowns, I'm going to make these guys run an entire day. There's no excuse for us to not even destroy this team. So just once, I would like to hear a surgeon come out and be like, look, man, I tried my best, but we went into the ankle, and I got to be honest with you, I screwed up. I had a bad day. I was a little jittery. I had too much coffee this morning. But that's never going to happen. So I have no idea how the surgery went, and neither does anybody else involved until it has a chance to heal, and then he begins the rehab process. So there you have it. I just think that's weird. Injuries are always 2 to 4 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks. They're never odd numbers. You ever notice that? Why is that? Why can't an injury be 3 to 5 weeks instead of 4 to 6? And why is it that every surgery ever performed on any athlete in the history of time all went well? When you know that's not the case. Are these guys perfect? What is it, God performing the operation? Yeah, it's just one of those little side notes that I get hung up on. Oh, it went well. Let me guess. It went well. Oh, stunning. As has every other surgery performed on every athlete in the history of time. All right, let's take a listen to some of these guys involved in the game coming up on Sunday. Should we start with the Patriots? Yeah, listen to this buffoon. Patriots defensive tackle Milton Williams. When asked if he knows anything about Jared Stidham, here's what he had to say.
What do you know about Stidham?
Nothing. Nothing. I ain't gonna lie, nothing. We're gonna watch some tape on him and, figure out what he like to do, but no, they didn't like him over Bo. So
What?
Yeah, thanks. His genius statement, they didn't like Stidham over Bo. Well, of course, he's the backup quarterback. If he If they liked him more than Bo, he would be the starter. So, of course, he's a backup, you clown. To me, that's disrespectful. And I would use anything I could find right now if I'm Sean Payton. Anyone lobbing anything that has a scent of disrespect, I'm playing that back to the team. They didn't like him better than Bo. Well, that's right, because Bo was picked in the first round, and he's their starting quarterback. And he's played every game from the moment he was drafted up until now. And this will be the first start that he misses. They didn't like him better than Bo. Yeah. Let me guess. The Blazers didn't like Caleb Love more than Dame. You think? Oh, my gosh. That stuff drives me crazy. All right, what else have we got? Here is defensive end John Franklin Myers talking about Jarrett Stidham and what he sees from him in practice.
The thing about Stiddy, there was a few times that, man, he just does such a good job, but he knows what he's doing. He understands why the coach is calling a certain calls, and that's what makes him so good. Sometimes you get out there, you play football, you run what's called, you're not understanding where you want the ball to go, how fast, when, and everything. And Stiddy, man, he's running scout team plays, and he's running them better than Dave's starting quarterback. So I'll tell you, man, he's a good player for us, and, man, we're excited for the thing.
All right, so they're excited. But, again, what is he going to say? Look, man, I've seen him practice. We're screwed. We have no chance with Stiddy. He's not going to say that. But I have talked to other NFL players who they knew. I think it was Lo Neal. He told me that when he was with Cincinnati playing for the Bengals, who was the former Duck quarterback? Akili Smith. Great guy. I love Akili, and he was a great quarterback for the Ducks. But Lowe told me that when he stepped in the huddle and took over in Cincinnati, he and everyone else in the huddle knew that they were dead because he didn't know what was going on, and he was not prepared for the moment. I don't think Jarrett Stidham's in that situation. The first transaction in terms of players when Sean Payton took over as Broncos head coach was to give Stiddy a big contract, and he re-signed him. So he's paid him handsomely to be a backup quarterback because he believes in him. Now, would I prefer to have Bo Nix? Yes. Bo Nix was awesome on Saturday. He was awesome. So maybe I'll get a few less. Chad, I really don't believe in Bo Nix phone calls in the future. Do you believe in him now? Let's see what he's done this year. He took out the red-hot Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love. He took out the Chiefs when the Chiefs were supposed to go into Denver and win because that's what they always do with Patrick Mahomes. And he took out Superman. Do we still not believe in Bo? The guy has won almost every game he's played ever since he came in the league. He's not bad. But that was a big-time performance for Bo. I was very happy for him. Let's see, what else have we got here? How about a little Nick Benito talking about confidence in Jarrett Stidham?
Because he got the most confidence in himself. I mean, he'll be out there throwing no-look passes, talking crap to the defense and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's earned the opportunity to go out there and play, and I know we're excited to go out and watch him do his things.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, he's got confidence. I don't need Jarrett Stidham going Bo Nix and trying to throw a no-look pass in the AFC title game. So, anywho, that's where we're at. Yeah, the Broncos, the weird part is that they opened up as like a 1.5 point favorite, and then we got worried about Bo, and then the line shifted to 5.5, 6. You trying to tell me that Bo, the best part is, too? All the fools who were telling me that Bo Nix wasn't good enough to beat Josh Allen are the same people who are now like, I don't know how the Broncos are going to win the AFC title with Jarrett Stidham. Well, which one is it? Do you believe in Bo or not? You can't have it both ways. So, like usual, just like the Bills game, these playoff games, it's going to come down to turnovers. So my biggest concern for Jarrett Stidham is, he hasn't started a game in 2 years. I know he understands the offense. He's a veteran. He's been around 7 years in the league. He's got confidence. He's mobile enough. He's got the physical traits to get the job done. But when you jump into a game and you haven't played for 2 years and all of a sudden you're in the AFC title game and you got the New England Patriots defense, which is pretty darn good, flying around, the game's operating at a different speed. So from that time, what did Alex say? 2 to 3 series for Jarrett before he's able to adjust to the speed of the game. Can he not make a big mistake during that stretch? And the question is, if you're Sean Payton, what type of plays do you develop early in the game? So the first 15 plays by the Broncos are scripted. What type of plays do you give him to get him into a rhythm and get a feel for the game before you start looking to attack? So that's my big concern. Also, if you want to know the biggest difference between Bo and Jarrett, it's probably sack avoidance. So I think Bo this year, throughout the entire season, sacked 22 times total. In his 4 starts, Jarrett Stidham's been sacked 13 times. So what is that, like 3 sacks, just over 3 sacks a game? That's going to be a problem. Holding onto the football, not wanting to make a big mistake, and next thing you know, you got a 300-pounder breathing down your neck and putting you on your back. So, anywho. I like the Seahawks, by the way. I like the Seahawks at home minus the 2.5. Now, this is not a good matchup for Seattle. The Rams match up with Seattle better than just about anyone else in the NFL. I think most of you Seahawks fans would agree with that. But in this situation, the obstacle of trying to win 3 straight road games and the fact that they've been leaking a little bit of oil, I just don't think they're going to have enough. And the one thing that Sam Darnold will be able to do, assuming the oblique doesn't flare up on him, the Ram cornerbacks are not good. They will break coverage. You will have opportunities downfield, and it's going to be important for Darnold to capitalize on those opportunities. And, you know, the Rams are going to move the football enough with McVay and Matthew Stafford, but that Seahawks defense is nasty. And they're coming off a terrific performance when they just completely obliterated the 49ers. Oh, my goodness. So tomorrow, here's what we got coming up tomorrow. This is important you understand this. So Justin Ballinger, the sportsbook manager of Spirit Mountain Casino, is going to join the show at 3:20. And then Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio at 4:20. Now, remember, Justin, think about what the information he gave us last week. We, through the course of conversation, uncovered that the Broncos were the appropriate play in the game against Buffalo. And what did he say about the national title game? You had Indiana favored by 7.5. 96% of the bets were on Indiana. And I asked him flat out, how often does the public get over when 96% of the bets are on one side? He said, in a game of this magnitude, never. And what was the final score? 6-point difference. Bingo. So Justin Ballinger tomorrow at 3:20. And then we'll talk to Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, to get set for this weekend at 4:20. All right, Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer Insider, is coming up next. Miami Heat are in town after 3 days off for the Blazers. Tip-off's going to be at 7. And Chris Burkhardt, he'll stop by and join me at 4:45. He's got game day at 5 live here from Moda Center on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, Sean Hyken with Rose Garden Report, our Trailblazer insider, is here. And I've done some thinking over the last 3 days. I've had a lot of free time, unfortunately. And I was looking at the Blazers being at 22-22, which I don't think they're getting enough credit for the work they've done this year with everything they've gone through and 5 rotational guys being out and their coach being taken away by the FBI after game 1 to be sitting at 500. And then it all occurred to me, it's because Deni Avdija is a budding superstar in the NBA. Not just an all-star, but I believe he's a star player. And that's really what this comes down to. The big difference for the Blazers is that they've had Deni Avdija carrying this team throughout the course of the year. And I'm not trying to disrespect anybody else on the team, but Deni Avdija is the true difference. He's been awesome.
The thing that we've been talking about for, 2-3 years since they traded Dame and entered this rebuild was they don't have the guy that's the guy. Like, we were thinking it was going to be Scoot because of the pedigree that he had going into the draft. We were thinking it was going to be Shaedon at one point because of how talented he was. They didn't really have the guy, and that's what you need to kind of take a rebuild over the top to then you're at the point where you can start winning now. Turns out they got that guy now.
They do. And what's funny is that I think it was, you were there. It was at the exit interviews last year where it was Chauncey who was talking about, hey, we really believe, and Joe Cronin too, about their internal development, and maybe that guy's on our team right now. I mean, even when they said that, it's not that I didn't believe him, but I kind of rolled my eyes like, yeah, sure you do.
Well, the thing that, and I remember that press conference too, Chad, and it was like they were talking about, like, Jokic was a second-round pick, and Giannis was outside of the lottery pick, and SGA was the number 11 pick, and he got traded early in his career. And I was like, okay, you're literally naming the 3 best players in the entire NBA and saying that's why you might have a superstar.
Yeah.
Like I was like, all right, man. Like I get why you guys have to say that and why you have to sell that, but I was like, all right, that's a little bit ambitious, and I don't know, it might not be that ambitious.
Well, you know what's amazing now? You look back at that deal. What was it? A first-round pick and 2 seconds, along with Malcolm Brogdon.
Well, it was so Brogdon was just the salary. And then it was 2 seconds, and it was 2 firsts, one of which was the 14th pick in the draft last year, which became Bub Carrington, who hasn't really done much with the Wizards. And then out of the 3 picks that the Blazers have in 29, their own pick, the Celtics pick from the Drew trade, and the Bucks pick from the Dame trade, they have 3 picks in that draft. The Celtics get the middle of those 3. So even if one of those picks is a really high pick, the Blazers still get that one, and then they give the second one to the Wizards.
Yeah.
And if you're the Wizards, like at the time, they're entering like a really deep rebuild. They're completely tearing it down. And at the time, Deni Avdija was like, okay, you saw the contract that they signed him to, which, now we're looking at it, since he's playing the way he's playing, we're looking at it as like the best contract in the NBA as far as like value for production. But they would have given him more money than that if they thought he had this type of potential. And then it's like, if you're their front office at that time, first of all, they didn't draft him. The current Wizards front office did not draft Deni Avdija. It was the old front office, so he wasn't like one of their guys. And then also it's like you're in the point of just asset collection. If a team is willing to give you 2 first-round picks for a guy that you don't view as like a future all-star, you're going to take that deal. So even though like people are killing the Wizards now in hindsight because of how good Deni has been the last couple of years in Portland, you could explain that deal at the time, and it kind of made sense. And then it just has worked out about as well as it possibly could have for Portland.
Yeah, they basically pulled off a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander type deal. And I'm not saying Deni is Shai. What I'm saying is that they gave up very little to get someone who turned out to be a star. And it's amazing. And you know what? You need to have that type of fortune sometimes to pull yourself out of the doldrums.
Right. I mean, it's all up. You need to have, like we said, Jokic, being a second-round pick, and he turns into one of the 10 best players of all time, or like you need some luck like that sometimes. And the Blazers have had kind of the opposite luck in a lot of cases when it came to these guys that we thought were going to be go back to it's obviously different front office regime, different organization at the time, whatever, but like Brandon Roy, Greg Oden supposed to be those guys, and then they couldn't stay healthy. Scoot, when they drafted Scoot, it was like, oh, this is going to make it okay that they trade away Dame because this guy's going to be like the next John Morant or the next Derrick Rose, and it just hasn't worked out like that. So you can look at it like, oh, they've had some kind of bad luck with some of these guys. Shaedon was a high pick. He's having a really good year now, but the first 3 years of his career, you could say, were kind of underwhelming. They were kind of due for one of these sort of weird risks, kind of under the radar things to really just pay off in this way, and it has with Deni.
It's amazing. I love Denny Avdia, and it's fun to watch him play, but, man, he has been sensational this year. Speaking of Scoot, I didn't know this until a couple of days ago, but I was talking with someone, and I didn't realize that he basically ripped the meat off the bone with the hamstring. Did you hear that? Like it was severe?
I mean, they said it was a torn hamstring. It doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
I don't know the specifics.
But I guess what I meant is that what I heard from a source that I trust is that it was a severe rip of the hamstring, like not some type of minor strain or whatever. So people keep wondering, like, why is he still out? Well, it's like, I think it was a severe hamstring injury.
And Tiago Splitter said that the other day. We asked him about it, about just kind of where Scoot's at. And he said, he's getting better, but this is the kind of injury where there's a high risk of re-injury if you try to come back too early. So we're being really careful. The one thing I will say that's pretty encouraging, and Brandon and I talked about this yesterday when I went in the studio with him, but at practice on Tuesday, when they let us in at the end, obviously we don't get to watch the full practices and see what everybody's doing the whole time, but when they let us in, Scoot was running full court sprints.
Nice.
So that's at least, like, even if he hasn't been cleared for contact yet and to do full scrimmaging, he's at least allowed to run at full speed across the court. So that's at least a sign that things are healing enough that he's able to do something.
Well, the other good thing, in addition to Avdia, is you start to look at some of the other maneuvers. The drafting of Shaden Sharp, he is now, in my eyes, rounding into form as a legitimate big-time NBA player. He's been great over the last month plus. And then Donovan Clingan, unsung hero. He has been – the leap from year one to year two has been unreal in my mind. And so I just look at those two players. I'm like, dang, you combine that with Denny, and all of a sudden you're cooking with some gasoline there.
Is it a crazy take to say that the Blazers' second most important player this season after Denny has been Clingan?
No, I think it's an accurate take. I would say that because just look at their rebounding or lack thereof on the offensive glass when he's not on the floor.
And then, I mean, the thing is, we knew what the rim protection and the rebounding was last year. He had all that stuff last year. The two things that have just completely taken it to a different level this year are, A, the endurance and the stamina and the fact that you don't have to worry about him getting tired after playing 22 minutes. He can play 30 minutes in a game, no problem. And then he's also just gotten so much better offensively, both finishing at the rim and like the three-point. I think the three-point shooting is a little bit overstated. I think he's still shooting like low 30s on the season.
But he's better.
But it's not like you aren't like holding your breath every time he takes one of those shots.
Last year I was cringing when he would pull up from downtown. Now it's less
I just
of a
remember
cringe.
however many years it was that we had to hear about, like, oh, Yusuf Nurkic actually can shoot threes, and you're just like, all right, whatever.
Yeah,
They always say that, but no. The threes with Donovan have really, like, it's come around to a point where it's at least like you're okay with him taking that shot.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Donovan Clingan has been a true find for the Trailblazers. I love his toughness, and he wants to win. He's one of those guys that's willing to do whatever it takes for his team to win. The other question I have is Caleb Love.
Yep.
Have you been able to uncover any information as to how a guy like that, who clearly can play in the NBA, went undrafted?
Probably size. Like, teams don't really like small guards.
Yeah.
Teams, I think there's also the idea that because, he played 5 years in college because he had, like, the COVID eligibility. Older rookies, teams kind of feel like, oh, there's not a lot of upside there. They probably are what they are. I don't know. I mean, because he certainly showed in college at North Carolina and at Arizona that he's capable of, scoring outbursts like this. But I will say that, he's a big development story for this team, too, because you look, at the beginning of the season, he wasn't playing much before Drew and Shaden and all, all their guards were out for a while, and like Blake Wesley. But once he started playing, that first month was pretty rough. It was like, oh God, this guy's shooting 1 for 9 every night. This is, it's kind of an adventure. But then over the last month or two, he's out there and like he's taking those shots. You feel like he's going to make enough of them that
he leads the rookies in scoring since December.
Yep.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's as an undrafted guy, and I wrote about this last week, but the Blazers are going to have to figure something out in the next month or so with both him and Sidi Sissoko, where they're both running up against the 50-game limit for how many games two-way players can play with the NBA team. So they're going to have to be converted to standard NBA contracts, and so these guys are probably the front office in between now and the trade deadline and the middle of February are going to have to open 2 roster spots somehow to keep those guys.
What exactly will you be keeping an eye on with this team with the deadline approaching?
Really, just that. I don't really see them doing anything that big as far as like.
You expect Grant to remain?
Oh yeah, I don't think that's. First of all, we talked about this really the last 2 trade deadlines, Chad, salaries like that are really hard to move at the deadline in season. And the other thing is, like, Jeremy had a really bad year last year, which, he would tell you too. Like, I don't think anybody would deny he had an awful year last year. And it was this whole thing at the time of like, oh, they just need to do whatever they can do to get off his contract, and like that's just money they need to dump. Jeremy's been pretty good this year. I don't think it's really a priority for them to.
His value's increased ever since the season began, right?
His value's increased, but also like he's settled into this 6-man role, which that's the role that he's been playing when they've had all their main guys healthy, and that's a good role for him, and he's good on both ends of the floor, and he kind of has, he's a guy that like they aren't like dying to get rid of now, like maybe they were a year ago when he had a really bad year and he's making a ton of money. Now it's like he's just a guy that's a little bit overpaid. It's not like one of the worst contracts in the league anymore. But as far as the deadline, I think it's more just going to be you got to figure out how to clear 2 roster spots. So maybe that's you trade Duop Reith somewhere and get a second-round pick back and not get a player back so that you open up a roster spot. And then the only like rotation guy, like main rotation guy that I really see them possibly moving is Robert Williams, just because he's on the last year of his contract and he has even though he's been pretty healthy and pretty productive this season, he's as healthy as he's been since he was in Boston. He's still, in the last year of his deal, he has the health history, and the Blazers drafted centers in the first round in the last 2 years. So, it's now or never to trade him and get something for him. Matisse Thybulle, I don't think really has much value on the trade market outside of matching salary because he barely ever plays. But that's also a guy that if they need to clear another roster spot after the deadline for one of the two-way guys, Matisse is the guy that I think maybe you look at and say, do they kind of figure out some sort of buyout agreement there?
Do you expect both City and Love to be converted, or do you think it's just one of the two?
I don't know how you can not find a way to keep both of them. They've both been too important this season.
I agree. So you would expect that however they get it done, you would expect those 2 guys to be converted.
I think that's the biggest priority before the deadline because you look at it like they're not really in a position where they need to cut a ton of salary because they're over the luxury tax because they're not. So they're not in a position of like needing to subtract for that reason. But I also don't think, for as well as they've been playing lately, I don't think they're good enough that if they give up a bunch of first-round picks and get somebody like, a Lauri Markkanen or Karl Anthony Towns, like whichever one of these like big-name guys that would be a big upgrade, I don't think they're good enough that making a big all-in trade for one of those guys is going to vault them into the top contenders in the West this year. So if they do anything big like that to add talent, I think that would be something that would happen more in the offseason than at the deadline.
We're talking with Sean Highkin of Rose Garden Report here on the Rip City Drive. What's been the biggest surprise to you this year? Tiago Splitter doing a heck of a job stepping in for Coach Billups. The emergence of Deni Avdija becoming a superstar. Is it the play of Caleb Love or Sidi Sissoko or the year 1 to year 2 jump for Donovan Clingan or the way that Shaedon Sharp's been able to remain engaged on both ends throughout the season?
I think it's a combination of all of the above, and it's the fact that, because, you were a little bit higher on these guys going into the season than I was. You were, what did you say they were going to win? Like 45 games. I was kind of in the mindset of, okay, and this is when they, this is like before Chauncey got arrested, and this is before, they started having. My
45 prediction was before Chauncey was arrested and 5 guys being out of the
rotation.
Right,
exactly. So this was, and so my thinking was, okay, best case scenario, maybe around 500, and they'd be in the 9-10 spot in the play-in. We're at a point now where, right now they're 9th. I think it's pretty likely they move up to 8 because the Warriors are kind of done with this Jimmy Butler
and they'll
injury.
be able to host, they're going to put themselves in a position to potentially host a play-in game maybe.
Host a play-in game? Do you think top 6 is crazy?
No.
I don't.
No, it's not.
There's this 3-way tie right now between, so like they're I think 2.5 games behind Golden State. There's a 3-way tie behind them with the Lakers, the Suns and the Timberwolves. Yeah, for 5, 6, 7. And the Blazers have right now they have the tiebreaker over the Lakers.
Yes.
The Minnesota and Phoenix, they still play a bunch, but I don't think any of those teams are impossible to catch in the standings.
And the Blazers are going to more than likely they're going to roll up more wins in the second half of the season than they did in the first half because of schedule.
Pretty favorable schedule, and they're starting to get guys healthy again. They have treaded water, and they're at 500 this far into the season without most of their guys healthy for most of the year. And now it's like, okay, Drew's back, and even with him and Jeremy, we still don't know whether either of them are going to play tonight because it seems like they're kind of still being careful with them on back-to-backs and being careful with their minutes. But assuming one of those guys doesn't get re-injured and miss more time, you got those two guys back now. Theoretically, you're going to get Scoot back at some point. Theoretically, you're going to get Blake Wesley back at some point, and they have a favorable schedule. I don't know. I think they might be closer to your prediction for season wins than mine.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see, unless Denny Avdia goes down for an extended stretch, God forbid. Yeah, I would say that at this point, based on how they've played and with guys coming back, it would be surprising to me if they don't hit 45 wins. And that would have, a lot of people thought that sounded crazy at the beginning of the year, but when you look at how they've played, and again, it all goes back to Avdia, right? Like the fact that they're 500 right now is astonishing. It really is.
Yeah. And I mean, we kind of saw, I know they won the 2 games against the Lakers and the Hawks without him.
Yeah.
But as we saw in the Golden State game, if they miss him for like an extended period of time,
done.
it's like they had those 2 games, but then it's like, okay, at best you hope for the 9-10 play and you can tread water there.
Yeah, they can't survive without Denny. They survived. They did better without Denny in the 3-game stretch than I thought they would do.
Yeah, but
you cannot survive long term without Denny because he is so valuable on both ends of the floor, and we saw it. Without Denny on the floor, without him leading the charge and facilitating the offense, they look a little bit lost.
Yeah, I think that's
okay
clear,
because there are a lot of teams in the NBA where if you remove one particular guy, things can go south in a hurry. That's just part of it.
And then if you're the Nuggets and you haven't had Jokic for the last month, you just kind of keep winning, which is insane.
Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
Stepping his game up.
Yeah.
He looks great.
You want to talk about another probable first-time All-Star? That's another guy that you're going to have to.
And he's well-deserved. I got to admit, he drove me crazy, with his act in the postseason.
Right.
But no, he's been great, and I think he's showcasing like what Nugget fans believe that he could be, and I think that's cool when guys get an opportunity to step up and take some leadership when a guy's out like Jokic and they're able to get it done. I think that's impressive, and a good job. I like Adelman, so I'm happy for him too. But Tiago Splitter, props to him and the staff. You mentioned Robert Williams. Like I think they've done a masterful job of managing his minutes and injury to where he's been available and productive throughout the year.
This is the player that they thought Rob was going to be when they traded for him in the original Drew trade.
In this type of role?
Yeah. I mean, because at the time with the Dame trade, they hoped that DeAndre Ayton was going to be like the long-term center because it was still, a former number 1 pick who was only 25 years old. Obviously, it didn't go that way, but now, they drafted a guy, Donovan Clingan, who clearly looks like he is going to be a long-term, solution as the starting center and a very good one. So having a guy like Rob who can come in, can protect the rim, isn't like exactly the same type of player as Donovan. I don't think has as much of an offensive skill set, but gives you a lot defensively, and has the the athleticism. Even with the knee injuries that he's had, he still has that athleticism. You still see him jumping for lobs and getting a lot of rebounds and stuff. Like he can still move, he can still do it. It's just because he has the history that he has with the surgeries. You're going to have to keep in mind. Like, I don't know if he's ever going to be able to play back-to-backs at any point in the rest of his career, but that's just kind of is what it is.
All right. You got any take on the Broncos with Jared Stidham taking on the Patriots this weekend?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so, but I thought I would ask.
No, I don't.
All right, Sean Hike. And what are you going to be watching for in tonight's game? You and I talked about this before. I'm excited about Miami coming in. I like their brand of basketball.
Yeah.
It should be a fun game tonight.
Well, I'm interested. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see who plays and who doesn't tonight. But this could be the first time, if Drew Holiday goes, this could be the first time since November 14th that the opening night starting lineup of Drew Holiday, Shaedon Sharpe, Toumani Camara, Denny Avdia, and Donovan Clingan start.
Oh, very good point.
Yeah. Those guys all were available to play in the Knicks game, but Drew was coming off the bench, and he was still on the minutes limit. Drew's been back in the starting lineup since then.
That's right.
So this could be the first time in over 2 months that the opening night starting lineup is the starting lineup.
Do you think Jeremy plays tonight?
I think they go one with him and Drew. I think they play one tonight and
one tomorrow.
I kind of think Toronto has more size with like some of those like bigger wings that they have, so maybe you play Jeremy in that matchup and rest Drew tomorrow.
Do you think Drew will be on a minute restriction tonight?
As far as I know, he still is, but it seems like it's increasing. But he's been playing about 20 or so minutes.
All right. I think that pretty much settles that. Sean Hyken, make sure you check him out, rosegardenreport.com. He does the best job, local coverage on your Portland Trail Blazers. And you're going to be heading off on another road trip
Yep.
coming up, aren't you?
Yep, the Boston, D.C., New York trip that the Blazers are going on over the next week.
That's going to be a fun trip.
Should be good.
I haven't been to the Boston Arena yet. Is it good?
Yeah, it is. I've been there before. It's a good it's a good location, good crowd, good building.
Have you been to the Fieldhouse in Indiana yet?
Oh yeah. I think that's my favorite place to watch a game in the entire league.
I didn't know that, but I've heard it's pretty awesome.
I think that's my favorite place in the league to watch a game.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
How is it in the city?
Yeah, it's right downtown.
Okay. All right, Sean Hyken, Rose Garden Report. Check him out. He's our Trailblazer insider. I appreciate you, buddy.
Yes, sir.
All right, Heat and Blazers coming up at 7. Chris Burkhart is on the scene, and he's going to join me next as he gets ready for Blazers game day, which will kick off at 5 here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, Chris Burkhart, who's got Blazers game day coming up at 5 o'clock, is joining me right now. What's up, my brother? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Always good to see you.
You're right. You just mentioned that it's a little bit weird to have so many days off between games, and I would agree with that assessment, man. Like, it took me a while to get kind of synced up because I've missed the last 3 days of work, and I'm like, who are they playing? Oh, yeah, the Heat tonight. And what was their last game? I started preparing my recap as if it were the Lakers, but it wasn't. They played the Kings on Sunday.
Yeah, but I also started prepping for the show, and I'm thinking about the Kings game, but then I started questioning myself. I was like, is that who they last played? Like that, these breaks, they're good, but it does throw you off a little bit. You know more than anybody because you're a creature of habit, and especially when it comes into the season. Like, you're just used to, like, we're going to have a game every other day. When you throw 3 days in between, it's like, whoa, everything's thrown off.
Yeah, I am a creature of habit, so anytime I'm asked to do something that's out of my normal routine, there's a high level of probability that I'm going to screw it up. And so it's tough to adjust, but I'm happy to be here. And what I'm excited about is, like, I just figured this out over the last, I would say, couple of days. Like, the Blazers being at 500 is amazing based on what they've been through. And I don't think they're getting the credit they deserve. And it's one simple reason. Denny Avdia is a superstar player. They have their superstar.
Without a doubt.
And it's hard to say that, but it's true.
He's been incredible. He's been incredible. He's been so fun to watch. I thought it was impressive in that game in Sacramento. Yes, he had missed a week of time, but no minutes restriction, and then didn't skip a beat. He almost had another triple-double. He's been absolutely massive. And outside of that, too, I mean, you look at the games without him, getting Drew Holiday and Jeremy Grant back, Chad. Like, one thing about this team, and some of the big national talking heads are starting to pick up on it, is they're reminding me a little bit of the beginning of the season where they're just playing good basketball again. It's wonderful to see.
I'm loving it. There's so much credit to go around. I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, Caleb Love. Like, why wasn't he drafted?
I think the only reason he was not drafted is because he's definitely – more of a pure shooting guard, so he's slightly undersized for that position. Defensively, I think the book was out on him that he might be a slouch on that end. I don't think he's been bad on that end at all. But if anyone watched him at UNC in Arizona, like, he can be a guy who shoots at a high volume but doesn't necessarily make a ton. And we saw that early in the season where he was having those 0 for 8 games, those 0 for 9 games. But the last week or so, last few weeks, he's been incredible and relied upon. So big shout out to him, man. Diamond in the rough.
All right, my Broncos are going to be playing a game this weekend with the backup quarterback. Like, do you think there is zero chance they can win the game? Do you think they got an opportunity with Jarrett Stidham? Like, how do you read that situation?
Well, Chad, I think the way football is, it's going to be hard, but you can always win a football game as long as you create a game plan. And I think Peyton is just going to have to rein it in a little bit. But you create a game plan where you're not asking him to do too much. You're just asking him, hey, go out there, throw the ball. You don't need to be Bo. You don't need to be hitting 60-yard bombs. We might, dink and dunk it a little bit. But I need you to play mistake-free football. If you do that, I trust my skill positions, and I definitely trust my defense to step up when needed.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about. Like, I was talking to Alex Brink. He thinks it'll take 2 to 3 series before he adapts to the speed of the playoff game. And I just hope that there's not some type of critical error in that early stage, right?
Well, not only that, not just from him, Chad, but you would hope that if it takes 2-3 drives to get going, and nobody would know better than Alex Brink, having been in that role as a quarterback before, you would just hope that those 2 or 3 drives isn't enough for New England to go down and they score twice or something. It's already a 2-score game. So, again, defense has really got to show up and back them up a little bit.
You got to love this right here. Hawaii being projected into the 2026 college football playoff field.
I would freak. I'd geek out, dude. I would geek out. I mean, the way they played this year, they could have won that Mountain West, and then, just a couple little hiccups. But you and I have talked about it before. Timmy Chang has them playing well. And if they got into the playoff, I would argue that it wouldn't matter about the result, but it might top that miraculous undefeated run with Colt Brennan to go to the Sugar Bowl where they got absolutely bounced by Georgia. But in the current landscape, man, getting into the college football playoff with how down that program had been for a while, that would be so huge for Hawaii football.
I love it, man. You are a loyal football fan, and it was great to see them finish off the year with a bowl victory over Cal. Got to be loving it, man. The Rainbow Warriors, baby.
We're back. We're back.
All right, Blazer Game Day is coming up next. Chris Burkhart will be live here from Moda Center, and then tip-off will be at 7. And I'll be back with the Rip City Drive tomorrow at 3. Justin Ballinger, the sportsbook manager from Spirit Mountain Casino at 3:20, and Brian Noah, Fox Sports Radio at 4:20 tomorrow. You guys enjoy the game tonight, and I will talk to you then. Burkhart has got Blazers Game Day next.